Hello everyone, welcome to the post-harvest costing webinar. My name is Kat. I am an implementation consultant with vintrace based here in the United States, and I'll be demonstrating a couple of different ways for you to fix up some costing after the craziness of harvest. Don't worry if you are unable to attend, or you want to take notes. We will, of course, upload this video to our YouTube channel so you can refer back to it at a later date. We're going to be covering adding costing to fruit intakes after harvest. We'll talk about the cost allocation console. We'll talk about adding costs to some dry goods inventory like additives or yeast. And we'll talk a little bit about grower contracts. We won't really dive into that too much, but I'll show you a couple of reports and some consoles and things like that. All right, so let's get started. First things first, you're going to need a couple of permissions enabled if you do not have them already. So we'll go into the More Options area and manage system users in our address book. And click into the user. If you're the local vintrace administrator, this is going to be great for you. If not, you'll need to talk to your local vintrace administrator so they can get these permissions activated for you. So we're going to need, can add costs on receival, can adjust costs. We'll need some edit batch cost tracked, I believe. We're not going to get into that today, but always kind of good to have that permission. Can manage grower contracts is a good one to have. And I think those are basically, run grower contract report if you need that for the grower contract piece, and then can view costs as well. If you do have, if your winemaking team is not really doing the costing, this is a good one for your winemakers to have at minimum, just so they can look at how much money is run against a certain batch. That sometimes helps when you're assembling blends. So can view costs is a good one to have if you're not actually adjusting or uploading costs. And I think those are the only big ones. Yep. If you ever have questions about the different costs, permissions, I guess I should say, costing permissions specifically for today, we do have a support article. Again, you can access our support website by either clicking your avatar, scrolling down to help and support, and searching the whole help center. We also have this little question mark here at the bottom left of your screen, gives you that same pop-up. If you type in permission, it'll open up a new tab, and this roles and permissions article is the one that you're going to want to look for. It'll detail everything you need to know, could be curious about. And while I'm down here, this plus sign is also very useful. As you notice, vintrace will pop open a lot of pop-up screens or consoles, and it's hard to do, two things at once. So if you ever need to use the plus sign, it'll open up a new tab in your same vintrace database, so you can toggle between your vessels page, for instance, or something else that you're trying to look for. So just wanted to call that out while we're here. And then as another overview real quick before we dive in, we do have a couple of costing dashlets that you can add to your dashboard that might be useful if you're regularly dealing with costing. We've got some of these insights up already: cost of wine red, cost of wine whites. But the dashlets, that we have a cost section, which is, cost by program vintage, cost by vintage program, total costing breakdown. So click into a couple of these. They might be useful to you. And if there is a specific dashlet that you think would be really helpful, you can always reach out to our support team and work with them on building a custom dashlet for you. And they can give you all of the information on that. Okay. So one of the ways that you can add costs to your fruit intakes before harvest is by setting up a grower contract. We're not going to dive too deeply into this today, but I'll just, mention it really quickly. We'll do a little bit of clicking around. So in the more options area under the accounts tile, we have manage grower contracts. And this is our training database. So we have quite a bit of grower contract set up in this console. So this might take a while, but grower contracts, you can go in and tie it to a vineyard, to a grower, specific blocks. And then I set one up a little earlier, so we'll grab that. And we'll just click into this guy here and just show you. So you can set it to different contract status, confirm, proposed, or under negotiation if things are still in that stage. Vintage, AVAs, which will fill in if I've got a vineyard here. So this one is for about 10 tons of Ballard Canyon Grenache. That's what I'm expecting to receive and pay for. And then fruit cost options. We have 3 different ones here. There's one, the one that I have here is no installments, realize costs against fruit when it arrives. You do have another option where you can realize fruit costs when installments are made, which will affect when that cost is carried into that batch. So when the fruit arrives, it won't immediately carry the cost per ton. It will once you start making installments, making payments against it and marking it as paid. That is a pretty common question for our support team. So just be aware that if you're not seeing some fruit costs and you're expecting to see them and it's a grower contract, check to see how you plan to pay it or how you plan to realize it against the fruit. Expected costs. So this will calculate your default price versus your contracted tonnage. And this price can be per ton or per area, depending on how your contract is set up. If part of your contract is value rules, you can grade some of these prices. So if you have if the fruit is less than ideal, you only pay a certain amount, or if your fruit is has to hit a specific bricks window, you can add a value rule there as well. And then this last tab is harvest. So as you can see, I have received 5.5 tons that I've attached to this grower contract. So we can take a look at that weight tag too, and we'll show you that. If, harvest is over, things have happened, and you realize that you've made a mistake and this price is wrong, you can go in and adjust these, but you're going to have to remove the grower contract from the weigh ticket before you actually make any adjustments. And I'll show you how to do that. You can link it and unlink it. So the order of operations here would be to go into this weigh ticket, unlink the grower contract, make my change, and then go back and relink it. So it's a little bit of a process, but we want to make sure that we tie everything together. So this is this grower contract console. You can go in and create a new booking and tie it to a contract that already exists, create a new grower contract from here. And then of course, as we all know with vintrace, all of these boxes up here help you to filter your returns in this window. So date range, installments, winery contract status, all that stuff. This is about how deep we're going to go into the grower contracts here. We do have, of course, some support articles about this. And if you do have questions that are not covered in those support articles, our support team, they're the best. Okay, so I am just going to start with fruit since that's where we're sort of focusing on. There's 2 different ways that you can add fruit costs after the fact. And one of them involves going into the specific weigh tags and fixing them up. So I'm just going to grab a whole date range here and grab some of these guys. If I wanted let's take a look at that grower contract that we were looking at a little bit earlier. And I've got, looks like I grabbed some Chardonnay from this vineyard, and I've got 2 Grenache picks here. So this one, this 5.5 ton one, we'll take a look at. So if I'm going to go in and correct the way tag it anyway, I'm going to go in and to completed intakes, hit correct. And all of the costing lives in this QA cost analysis tab. These fields are grayed out right now, but if I wanted to adjust this at all, I would go in and adjust the cost here. I can go in and unlink this grower contract if I wanted to, and zero all of this out and just, hit save. And that'll back out the cost from that specific way tag. And then I could go back to that grower contract and see that it's actually, we don't have any fruit attached to it right now. Conversely, I could go into my completed intakes and correct it. This is a different Grenache pick that we did. And I'm going to go in and adjust the cost here. If this is not attached to a grower contract and I still want to adjust the cost, as you can tell, I'm unable to select the price per ton or price per total. This is a bug. It is a known bug in the software right now. We are working on getting it fixed up. The current workaround is to just fill in a grower contract number here. If you don't have one, you can quick create a test grower contract. And in vintrace, the blue fields are the only required fields. So I'm just going to give this, actually I probably already have a 2024 test. We'll try that. Let's give it the same grower and my 2024. And these are the only required fields here. So that's all I'm going to do. So you can just have a, phantom grower contract here. Never mind. These are required fields too. Great. Just to give us something to do this. And then the fruit cost option, which we talked about. No installments, realize costs against fruit when it arrives, pay installments, pay installments. So this is required. We'll do that. And there we go. So now I have this 2024 test. The way to get it so I can adjust here is to just X out, and now I have the ability to per area, per kilo, per pound total. I'm just going to say per ton, and I'm going to say this fruit cost me $2,500 per ton, and I paid my local friendly truck driver $150 to deliver this load of fruit. Go in and adjust that. And hit save. Great. So now we've got some fruit costs attached to these intakes, and that will now flow forward into the batches that fruit went into. Always very helpful. The second way for you to add fruit costs after the fact. If you have a lot of these to do, it's not just one grower, it's not just one vineyard, you have to basically give us, a bunch. The way to do this is to download the which one is it? Yep. We've got the bulk cost summary report, but this is the grape delivery report. So here, go into reports. This is the grape delivery report. So it's the vintage harvest category. Go down to grape delivery report for vintage 2024. And let's do a CSV so we can actually take a look at this. So you're going to generate the grape delivery report as a CSV. This is my number. And you'll go in and you'll see the costs that we have against the fruit here. So we've got price per ton, fruit cost here. And you'll see there's a lot of these that don't have any costs attached to them at all. So What you can do is you can go in and add your costs to these columns here, freight cost, fruit cost, save this file, and then email it to support, and they will upload it for you. It saves you a lot of time clicking in and out of way tags. If you have a lot of adjustments you need to make, highly recommend going this route. So again, this is the grape delivery report. You will generate it as a CSV, make your changes, and then upload it via emailing it to support. All right, so fruit costs. Just to recap, pre-harvest grower contracts, set those up. Otherwise, you can fix up each individual way tag, or you could go in and download your grape delivery report, input your costs into the CSV, and then email it to support for uploading. What do we do about cost items during harvest that don't have to do with fruit? So this would be something like equipment rentals, if you needed to rent an extra forklift, or bin dumpers, or roll-offs or things like that. Or what if you've gotten your invoice for all of the lab analysis that you sent out for the lab, and you want to just spread that across the vintage, or even your elevated electrical bill from running your glycol chillers a lot more during harvest. All of those costs can be allocated via the allocation console. So I'm here in my more options area. We have our accounts tile, the allocate costs button here. So this is a great little console. We can allocate costs across bulk. We could do it across inventory. We could also, export and import costing as well. So I'm going to go in and set my effective date. So this is the date that this cost is going to be applied, and then it will follow that batch from this date forward. So great way to do this, near the end of the year, when you have all of your invoices and everything, and got all your mathed out. So I'm going to, I think we've got one here. You can create a cost item from this field. I think I have one already, but I'll walk you through it anyways. So you can quick create with this little plus sign. So I'm going to call this Harvest Lab Analysis. And we'll just go in, do that. And then we'll give it the default value of 0, just because I'm going to be just adjusting it, giving it its own thing. And then cost type, we'll apply it. It will live in one of these 9 buckets. vintrace has 9 costing buckets. You can see them right in front of you. These are hard-coded into the system. Can't really do much about them. This is what they are. So you just fit your cost item into your whichever bucket makes sense for you. I'm going to put this into overhead just because, and price per each, but you can select charge the price per gallon, or wherever. So save. I'm not going to apply it to any specific account, but Harvest Lab Analysis. And here we go. So these are just my sending out for RS, sending out for ML dry, sending out for specific gravity or anything else I might need. And I can go in and add bulk from search. So I'm going to start vintage 2024, and I want to pull just the vintrace winery in my multi-winery instance and go in. We've got 37 results. I'll just select all, but we'll deselect a couple of these. I think I've got make sure these are all the ones I want to use. Let's take that one out. And we'll take the yeast tank out of there. That's fine. And use selected. So that'll pull all of these into this cost allocation console. So we have the effective date and time, the batch code, and the effective volume, because I said by volume, end of period. The weighting, it will calculate the weighting based on your apportion type and then the gallonage here. So, based on the gallonage, since it's just the gallonage, it's the exact same here. And then my cost allocation amount. Let's say I got my my lab bill, and we're looking at $2,500. And now I can just click apportion, and it will apportion that $2,500 out to all of these batches that are in my console. I can make sure this all looks good and save. There we go. Let's do one more here. Go back into allocate costs. I have I believe it's harvest equipment rental. Maybe it's just equipment rental. Maybe not. Let's create a new one. Create a new one. We're going to call it harvest equipment rental. And do that again. We'll grab this as overhead and price per each, and do the same thing again. Vintage 2024 in the Vintrace winery. Cool. And then spread this out. Grab all of these, put them in, and let's say we're looking at $25,000 and apportion that out. All right, so this is the cost per batch of my harvest equipment rental, and I will save that there. There we go. So the cost allocation console, very, very useful to just sort of peanut butter spread that cost out across bulk, across inventory, pretty easy. One thing I do want to look at is the costs admin. This is really, really useful for going in and looking at specific things that have happened. So if you'll see, everything that I just did is here in this cost admin console. Can select a date range, take a look at specific operations. Let's look at the last 7 days, and actually we'll go there. And here we go. So we've got a couple of cost actions that have happened. We received some screw capped glass. So that's there. We have packaging costs, which has happened. So this is tied to an operation, so a work order. Some dispatching, some manufacturing. You can go in and take a look at these operations. We received some fruit here, $60,000 worth. And then we've got bulk intakes as well, which is 0. So I could go in to something like this and edit the cost here. Say, okay, like brought this in bulk wine, we paid, a certain amount here. So that's what I could do there. I could go into the bulk intake operation, the actual work order. And I've got the costs here. I could adjust the cost there, or I could, sorry, it kicked me right out. If I hit correct, I believe it'll let me do that too. Maybe not. It's just the just cost then. Interesting. All right. Yep. So you could go in and, add your cost to things like that if you notice that there's a 0 somewhere and there shouldn't be. This is also great for editing any of these. So under the summary, we can fix a date, we can reverse, but then down here, if we highlight it, we'll be able to edit it. So if you know that there's a mistake somewhere in your cost allocations or some kind of operation, going into the cost console, finding the cost allocation number or the date range of when it happened, or even filtering by batch. This is a really great tool. It can be overwhelming because it will pull literally everything. So just be mindful that if you got costing pretty robustly in your system, there is a lot of information in this console. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about is adding cost to inventory items. So let's say you had a mid-harvest delivery of yeast, bacteria, you ran out of KMBS, whatever it is, and those invoices have kind of been sitting in a pile and you need to actually go through and add them. You can add costing to inventory receivables. So we'll go into the inventory console. I'm just going to pull up an additive here, my additive category. And we've got some that have costs set to 0. So you'll see there like, oh yeah, that's not there. It should be. I'm going to go in and find some down here. Liquid bento. That's good. That's at $0. So let's go in and fix that up. Let's see. So you can go into your stock item, take a look at the history, and I'm going to go back here all the way back to when we received it in 2018. And I can view that receivable there. As you can see, I did not put a price in here. So I'm just going to hit correct, and that will allow me to set the price. I'm going to go total. So the whole 15 gallons of liquid bentonite cost me $200, let's say. And my reason for correction is adding cost, and save. I've got a TTB close date. So if you are going way far back, make sure you have the permission enabled if you're closing off your TTB reporting periods. And so now when I go back into the stock item, I've got $13.33 a gallon. And if we go back to our history here, yeah, here we go. Wonderful. There it is. Yep, costs are currently being recalculated. So once this is calculated, it'll show up here in our breakdown as well. So pretty easy. If you go in, you can just fix up your inventory items and make sure that things are, all hunky-dory. You could also filter out the inventory stock report. So this will kind of help you find what's missing, because that other screen it's a little small, especially if you've got a lot of information there. So yeah, you could break out costing here, look at your additives, pull it as a CSV, and then let's filter it just a bit more because this is going to give us a bunch of returns. But yeah, we can go in and take a look at this. Currently committed all the way over. Yeah, unit cost. So you can go in and filter to only show you the unit cost or the total cost at 0. And then that'll help you find each specific item that you need to go in and fix, or whatever receivable it was from whatever vendor that you need to fix up. Yeah. And while we are here in the reports category, just one more report that I wanted to kind of call out here. There is a grower contracts report section. It gives you about the same information as the grower contract console, but sometimes it's nice to see it in a CSV without pulling it in your grower contracts console and then exporting it out to CSV. So that's here. But there's a couple of different reports that we can pull. So if you set your bulk stock report to a CSV and show costing, breakout costing, I'm going to pull it just for the 2024 vintage and generate. It's nice to just see your 2024s all the way, and then this will give us, different cost buckets here. So we've got total cost, we've got fruit costs here, and then those overheads that I applied, and then we've got a couple of freight costs here as well. So this is a great way to see, snapshot of like where you're sitting with your batches and costing and how things are looking. And again, vintrace attaches costing to the batch, not to the vessel. So if you have one batch across two different tanks and it's two different volume types, gallons or liters, that is what will dictate your cost per gallon, cost per liter. And that's why those vessels might be different amounts, because they might have different volumes in them, but it is at the batch level. As a cost per gallon or cost per liter. The cost per gallon or cost per liter will be the same, but the vessel themselves might be slightly different if they have different volumes in them. I confused myself a little bit on that one, but yes, that's what that is. And it's the bulk stock report at the CSV level with show costing and breakout costing. And then we have the bulk cost summary, which will give you a date range here. So I'm going to do this with vintrace, winery. This one will just give me everything. So it might not be as clean and easy to look at, because my vintage 2024s, which I've been adding costing to, will be close to the bottom of things. But we'll see what it looks like, just to show you. There are, some really great costing reports available for us. And let's pull that one there. Okay, so we have our batch, our opening volume, opening total, and then it'll give you in that date range throughout that time where costs has been applied. So I'm just going to scroll down here to the 24s, because I know we have some fruit costs down here. Ba-da-ba-ba. There we go. Yep, $60,000 there. And then going through, this is some of that overhead stuff. And then scrolling all the way to the right with all these different cost buckets, you have our closing volume and closing total. So bulk cost summary report, also very, very useful here. And okay, I think that's everything that we wanted to talk about today as far as fixing up harvest costing. Again, please utilize our support articles. That's this question mark here. We have a costing subsection of the support website, which has got a lot of information there. And again, if you do need to utilize our support team to upload your fruit intake costs, there is an article kind of walking you through that as well. But anyways, hope you all had a really great harvest and that we can get all of our costing input and close out our books for the year. I'll see you next time.